Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bearded Reviews. This is the first Bearded Reviews of 2021, and because of that, we're going to be going over top tens as well as some news stories. But here we have today is me, Matt, and Pat. Say hello, Pat.
What's up?
Uh, and before we get to our top tens, which we'll give a bit of an explanation of what this is exactly, because it's not our Beardy Awards. It's not like the Oscars predictions or anything. But yeah, we'll go over that before we go into our top 10 lists. But before we start that, we have a few news articles to talk about, and you're introducing the first one, Pat, so go ahead.
Yeah, reports are coming out. They officially announced the release date for Judas and the Black Messiah. I don't know if you've heard of that. That's Shocker King's director of debut. He's a producer and a writer. It's about the assassination of Fred Hampton, who was the leader of the Black Panther Party. So it's had fun, but it hadn't had an official release date.
I
Go ahead.
do believe I've heard of that, but I didn't know of it. So you're saying this is supposed to be out in time for the. Do you know about when the next Oscars is? Are they just skipping 1 year, or are they combining everything into the next one?
They're not skipping the Oscars. As far as I know, the plan still is to have the ceremony in April, which is pushed back from February, which is where they usually hold it. I know that the date is February. I think I want to say February 28th, might be the 23rd. But for Oscar contention, if your movie is released in some format by that time, you're eligible for Oscars. And that the Judas and the Black Messiah has been announced for theatrical release at HBO Max on February 12th.
That's going to be kind of weird.
So it is coming out, and I have read more than one article online in the last few days saying it could end up being a blockbuster movie in the Best Picture race and could end up being a spoiler. So I was just bringing that up to throw that out there and see if get some eyes on it. Because it's a movie I've been interested in for a while. Stars like I cannot remember how to pronounce his name. I want to say it's Daniel Guyaya. I always forget how to pronounce his name. I think that's right. He was the lead in Get Out.
Oh, yes.
And he was in Black Panther and a bunch of other stuff. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. I could be wrong, but and it's him, Lakeith Stanfield, and Jesse Plemons from Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I mean,
known as Todd from Breaking Bad, most known for it.
That sounds like a picture that will be in the Oscar contention. And once we get closer to the Oscars, I usually watch more movies throughout the year anyways, but it's been a weird year, as well as a lot of movies not even being released. But yeah, once we get closer to the Oscars, I'll be watching at least everything that's up for Best Picture nomination, as I usually do, just to have a better opinion for our beardies and our predictions, and to give us a rooting interest as we're watching the Oscars. But yeah, so if it makes a list for sure, and I might watch it anyways because it sounds like I'm into those kind of documentaries or docu-pics where it's not necessarily a documentary but a retelling, a theatrical retelling of events. Always find those interesting anyways. My news article was going to be, since this is the beginning of 2021, going over the top grossing films of 2020. This is just the top grossing films. Well, I got two. Okay, so I got two for this, and I guess. Okay, so the first one I got here are the top grossing films of films that came out in 2020 worldwide. And going down the list here, number 10 was The Sacrifice, which looks like a Chinese film. And that's the funny thing about this is that with the American market being very iffy, you have films from countries like Japan and China in here that did big numbers, especially because China was open with their theaters not too long after coronavirus.
Is this including worldwide or U.S.? Because I know that Tenet was like at 40 or 50 U.S.
This
and it made like $300 fucking million internationally.
this is worldwide. This list I have here
Okay.
worldwide, and this
Okay.
is, I believe, movies that were released in 2020. So yeah, number 10 was The Sacrifice. It looks like it's a Chinese film at 173 million. Birds of Prey at number 9 with 201 million. Zhang Zia, another Chinese film at 243 million. Doolittle at 250 million. Sonic the Hedgehog at 320 million.
Okay.
Tenet at number 5 spot with 362 million. So yeah, you're right on the money there. Demon Slayer, a Japanese anime film, at 363 million, which I do know a little bit about this. This set the record for the highest grossing film ever domestically in Japan, topping Avatar and Titanic, which were the number 1 and number 2.
Titanic was number 2 in Japan.
Yeah,
That's
for all this
interesting.
time too.
I did not think that would be right, but okay.
I was surprised when I was hearing, because I'm into the anime news. I was hearing that Demon Slayer was doing so well in Japan, and then they're like, yeah, it just topped Titanic for number 2. I'm like, what? and now it topped Avatar for number 1. But number 3 was Bad Boys for Life, 423 million. Number 2.
Number one in the U.S., I believe.
Well, we'll get to that. Number 2 is My People, My Homeland, another Chinese film, apparently. And the top spot was The 800, which I believe is also a Chinese film.
Yeah, a lot of Chinese films.
Yes. So top international grossing film of 2020 from America would be Bad Boys for Life, and followed by Tenet, followed by Sonic, number 3. Besides, I don't know if you had any other comments besides that, but going on beyond that, I also have the top grossing films in the U.S. in 2020, not necessarily released in 2020, but as much as money they made in 2020.
Yeah, go ahead.
Number 10, we have The Call of the Wild. At number 9, we have The Invisible Man. I remember that. Number 8, we have Little Women. Number 7, we have Doolittle. Number 6, we have Birds of Prey. Number 5 is Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. Number 4 is Jumanji, The Next Level. Number 3, as I mentioned before, Sonic the Hedgehog. Number 2, 1917, also being left over. And number 1 was Bad Boys for Life, as you mentioned. So here's an interesting question. Coming into the year, did you think Bad Boys for Life was going to be the highest grossing film of 2020 in America?
No. Based on what was being released, wasn't The Eternal supposed to come out last year?
I think so.
I thought The Eternals or Black Widow.
Yeah, I could see Black Widow for sure.
I thought Bond was a sleeper. Wonder Woman was a sleeper too, but I didn't think it was gonna top. But I thought
yeah, I know what you mean.
Conversation.
Other question would be, did you think Sonic the Hedgehog would be number 3, especially after? No, hold on. Let's go back a little bit. So,
I think both of those could have been top 10. I think they're both top 10 movies.
Yeah.
Potential. I don't think they would have been anywhere near what they would.
Yes.
It probably would have been a lot higher too.
That's true.
The U.S. releases. I think Tenet could have made like 500-600.
Yeah, it's
worldwide.
Interesting.
If it had come out.
It's interesting with
Tenet.
Tenet.
It made like 50 million in the U.S. I think it would be 600.
Yeah.
If it came out with a regular release schedule.
You mentioned that, and that isn't. Well, let's go back a little ways first. With Sonic the Hedgehog, I think it was supposed to be released in 2018, but people threw a fit with how stupid Sonic looked. So they spent several months reworking it, retooling it to get a better looking Sonic, which put it out a lot later. And I mean, taking a look at how Sonic had such bad press for such a long time, that also kind of plays into, is this going to do any good? Which it did well, and it turns out being number 3 did really well. Which, again, people were this is kind of like a retrospective of 2019, but people were just pooping all over Sonic, maybe
Yeah.
rightfully so. And it was wondering if people were going to do this thing where they're throwing a fit about it, but they weren't going to see it anyways. Well, it turns out spending the time to fix it, I guess, did fix it because they're number three top grossing film in the U.S. Granted reasons, but still, they came
So
out number three.
I bet if you looked at DVD numbers, it would be a pretty good spot on that list too, because that was one of the better reviewed, higher grossing movies to come out this year.
It really wasn't
And
that bad.
it had I know we sold a lot of DVDs of it at Target, more so than probably a lot of the other stuff that came out this year. So I'm assuming it did very well on DVD.
Yeah, sometimes this is the weird thing with box office gross. Is sometimes you look at a movie and you're like, oh, that's crappy, but that doesn't necessarily mean the box office is going to be crappy, and vice versa. You look at a movie and go, oh man, it's an amazing movie. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to sell well. Sonic the Hedgehog is obviously aimed at kids. Uh, it's also good enough for adults to like. It's got Jim Carrey and was it Zac Efron?
James Marsden. I don't know if Zac Efron's in that or not.
Who?
James Marsden is the guy.
Oh yes,
Yeah, I forget the name of the character.
just the main character.
I've seen like half of that movie. I don't think I finished it.
It's been a long time since I've seen
I
it.
watched of it.
It wasn't bad.
I think I mainly turned it off to go to work one day. I never turned it back on.
But yeah, it's the amount of people that would be willing to watch this movie, especially video gamers of our generation, just gives it a huge inclusive audience that are willing to watch it, even if it's not Oscar worthy. Which, by the way, people were joking that Sonic's going to win the Oscar for Best Picture. I don't think so, but
I think people don't understand how many good movies came out under their radar because people weren't paying attention.
oh, I know.
Sonic doesn't have a prayer of getting an Oscar nomination for Best Picture.
No,
But
not
we can
really.
Hold out hope.
Here's my holding out hope. Not that I really want it to happen, but it's number three top grossing film. It was better than expected, and kind of internet chatter has made a whole lot of stuff happen. And I'm not going to go into my conspiracy theories of how social media shapes the world, but if it gets a campaign going online from crazed fans that don't really care about the Oscars anyways, that's my long shot hope. If you want to put down your $1 million odds in Vegas for Sonic winning the Best Picture, it's not impossible, just almost impossible.
Yeah, I would say they have to like change the movies that came out to like November.
Yeah, it's
like push it back to only movies that came out before November. Then maybe.
it's not really going to happen, but it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
This year with the Oscars, you can pretty much write it down. If it's black oriented or if it is oriented against Trump, it's going to be nominated for Best Picture. And there is a lot of those. So it's not a good year for Sonic.
Yeah, if you want, I'm guessing the documentaries category is going to be stuffed with that.
Oh, yeah, it definitely will be.
Okay, so we'll move on to the meat of our segment this week, and it's going to be our picks for the top 10 films of the year. And here's a little story about my top 10, or should I say top 8. I was going through all the movies released this year, and I've only seen 8 of them. I got a little lazy, I guess, and watched a lot more films from before 2020. And what's helped stack my list up to 8 is that some of these movies that I've seen technically were released earlier, but not in America. So we're going to go with the 8 movies I've seen ranked from best to worst. so so starting at the bottom of my list, and you're wondering why this would be on anybody's top 8 list. It's because I've only seen 8 movies, and this happens to be one of them. And it's Trolls World Tour. So this is a movie I watched. Shut up, Pat. This is a movie I watched when I went home for Easter, and there weren't movies. My family wanted to watch a movie. Trolls World Tour came out. My sister will watch basically any animated film, and she loved the first Trolls. I haven't seen the first Trolls. I wasn't going to watch Trolls World Tour, but there really wasn't anything going on, and my family was watching a movie, so sure, I sat down and watched it. I think I fell asleep through... the movie felt like it was an hour long, and I slept through 15 minutes of it, but maybe I slept through an hour 15 minutes of it. But it was mostly just ugly-looking troll dolls doing things that had to do with music, and then just a crap ton of parodies of music, not parodies, sorry, covers of songs, either songs I didn't like or songs I liked, but it was covered badly, so I didn't like it. I mean, it was a good kids movie, but it wasn't really entertaining otherwise. So that's my number 8. Number 7, I have... Oh, sorry, I should be... hold on a second. I always forget I'm doing the graphics here. So there's your graphics of Trolls World Tour. Number 8 for me was... oh, go ahead.
So Amanda made you watch that. I have my money on Kirsten making you watch it. It was Amanda who made you watch it. Okay.
Yeah. I would see... Kirsten probably would like that, but I don't think she's bothered or is into it. Like, if she watched it, she probably would enjoy it. I mean,
That seems like anybody... That seems like the kind of movie that anybody over the age of 10 would just be not interested in. That's why I haven't seen either one.
Yeah, my only link to the original Trolls was that it was a big movie in the school district I worked for. The kids loved it. So I saw pictures of it everywhere and people talking about it when the first one came out. So my number 7 movie was Guns Akimbo, starring Daniel Radcliffe. A movie I reviewed on a previous episode of Bearded Reviews. And as you remember, it was a fun film. It wasn't really good as far as like a lot of actors or like pacing of the story, or it was constantly not well lit in cinematography. Daniel Radcliffe, I mean, this is how you get my attention with anything, especially as far as acting goes. If you're in a bad movie but you stand out as being really good in it, even though everybody else and everything else doesn't, you've got my attention. And Daniel Radcliffe honestly was the only part of the movie that seemed like a movie. Everything else, I mean, granted, this was, I believe, filmed in and by New Zealanders for New Zealand. And it came out in like 2019, maybe 2018. Sorry, I think it came out maybe 19, but it didn't release in America until 2020. But yeah, Daniel Radcliffe did a good job in this movie for how ridiculous it is, and it being so ridiculous was part of the fun of watching the movie. But besides that, there wasn't a whole lot going for it. This would have been a fun movie to cross over with my number 8, Trolls World Tour, and have Daniel Radcliffe shoot all the trolls in the face. But moving on, my number 6 was Wonder Woman. There we go. Yes, Wonder Woman. This would be a movie I would review for us if we were doing a review, but we're going to be spending so much time on the top 10s here that I figured we wouldn't do a review. But as far as a mini review goes, the movie was decent, but there's too many plot holes and what the heck is going on, and it was like 3 hours long, and as pretty as Godot is, I don't particularly love her acting, and maybe it's just because it's hard to get across her feeling and emotions with having a thick accent. And I don't hold that against her too much if it is. But it wasn't just Gal Gadot either, with what's his name from The Mandalorian being in it as the main bad guy. I don't know why I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but
Pedro Pascal.
Yeah,
Pedro
Pascal. He is a good actor, does a good job in everything else I've seen him in. He was a bit too over the top for me in this movie. And then, of course, they brought in the old love interest, too, for no real good reason. I mean, I guess he was playing a plot point, but it just seemed more like we need to get him into the movie.
He was one of the best parts of the first movie, so I kind of get it. But, yeah, I agree.
I'm sure for a lot of people he was. I didn't feel that way, but here's an interesting thought I had while I was watching the movie, too, was a lot of times you see male superheroes in their kind of floozy girlfriend sidekick that just is there to look pretty, and I felt like this was the opposite, where you have the big strong female superhero and her kind of floozy male sidekick love interest just kind of hanging about.
Dude, he was a war hero and a spy. What are you talking about?
They didn't really play that. I mean, they said he is this, but they didn't really show that he is that. He was just kind of like wandering, bobbling around like, oh, I'm here on this island with women and doing this and that. At least that was.
He led them on the mission. The whole mission they were on for most of the movie. It was his mission. You need to watch that movie again.
I was just about to say I need to watch that movie again. I think my impressions were formed at the beginning of the movie, and then I kind of, not to get too far off topic, but with the first Wonder Woman, I kind of felt the same way, where I kind of lost interest at the beginning of the movie and watched the rest, and I kind of got more into it into the middle and then lost interest again at the end, but I might have formed my opinion at the beginning and then stopped caring towards the end of the movie. Yeah, in the second movie, though, he wasn't doing a whole lot besides...
No, he wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, there was just too many things slowing it down for me. There were plenty of things to like, too. I do enjoy that they hit on the 80s nostalgia without going way too deep into it, because when nostalgia is just used all over the place in your face with no purpose and it just gets to be too much, I get annoyed by it. But I feel like it didn't do that. I felt like it was there, but it wasn't too in your face. It felt like it fit this time period. I get what it was going for with its story. I just felt like it got a bit too convoluted. It went a bit too over the top, and there were just too many points where it didn't make sense to me. And also was too long. Like, if you can condense it, I feel like naturally it speeds up the pacing and keeps it a little more interesting. But that was number 6 for me. Number 5 was Scoob. I also reviewed this movie way back when I watched it, if I can find the picture. There we go. It's a 3D animated Scooby-Doo film. Kind of at the beginning goes over the origin of Scooby-Doo and Shaggy meeting, and then having them along with some other mainstays of the Hanna-Barbera, what would you call that, universe, I guess, coming like not Captain Falcon, Blue Falcon, Captain Caveman, Snidely Whiplash, and others that were coming together for this movie. It was better than I thought it would be. I figured it would be okay watching, but it did a good job with telling a good story. It wasn't too in-depth or anything, being more of a kid's cartoon, but it wasn't way too dumbed down either, or just lacking plot points because it didn't need it. So not a whole lot to say about that, but it was a fun movie. Number 4 for me would be the live action Mulan that came out. I know a lot of people don't love this movie, and I feel like the reason is because it is a more realistic take on Mulan than the cartoon version was. It's hard to compare it to the cartoon version because there's a lot of differences, and a lot of differences that were in the cartoon version made it a bit more entertaining, such as adding a sidekick dragon voiced by Eddie Murphy, or just kind of playing up the comedy more. This was more of a serious film. It was shot more like a more authentic Chinese samurai type film, which are usually a bit more slow, a bit more dramatic. But I felt like it taught a, or it was a good story. It filmed in a good way. It was cinematic, interesting. They had a little bit of extra Chinese mysticism in it that wasn't in the cartoon version either. May not compare as nicely to the cartoon version, but I did enjoy the film for sure. Number 3 for me was Artemis Fowl, a movie that I watched because it was free on Disney Plus. They did not put it in theaters because theaters were closed down, but they didn't want to hold it back even longer than they already had. I was surprised how much I liked this movie and how much I genuinely feel like it is a good movie. I believe I also reviewed this movie, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but Judi Dench did a good job. Colin Farrell does a good job. Granted, he's not in the movie a ton. Josh Gad does a good job. I'd want to say I'm not a fan of Josh Gad, but I like everything he does, so maybe I am a fan of Josh Gad.
I like Josh Gad. All those three people that you noted said are usually good. Colin Farrell is hit or miss sometimes when he takes the wrong role, but for the most part, I think Colin Farrell is pretty good most of the stuff he does.
For sure, it is kind of weird to look at the stars that they have in the movie and be like, oh, it's probably not going to be good, but that is the sense I had at first. I haven't read the book series, which I know a lot of people are into, and a lot of people that didn't like the movie compare it again to the book series and say, they left this out, they should have done this because that was in the books. But having not read the books, I don't know that, first of all, and I try not to put that in my consideration anyways. The movie is the movie. It might be different, it might not be. But the kid did a generally good job too. I don't know if he fit the look exactly, because he was supposed to be kind of like a, and if you see him on any of the previews or anything, he's wearing like, Men in Black type suit, sunglasses, and he's supposed to kind of look adult, cool, calm, collected, but he seems more like a kid still. Besides the look though, good actor. I believe he has more coming to him, and hopefully they make sequels to this, like I assume they have with the books. Number 2 for me was Soul. My top 3, by the way, I had were all movies that I actually think are good movies, and had a hard time kind of putting them together, which order that I would put them in. But I watched Soul when it came out, as I was home with my family. We all enjoyed the movie. I was a bit surprised how it's not a children's movie. Not to say that it's an adult movie, but it's doesn't really play to kids at all. There's a bit of funniness in it, and when they're souls, their characters are cartoony looking, but besides that, they don't really like the story and the themes of the movie are a bit more deeper. But yeah, for being a Disney Pixar movie, it was animated well, it was acted well, art's great. Fits into the kind of African American culture that we haven't really seen from a modern African American culture that we haven't seen from Disney or Pixar movies. So it was just really interesting and well done. I was surprised it seemed a bit short. I would have liked to have seen it a bit longer to get a bit more into it, but I enjoyed it start to finish. Number 1 movie for me, which not as big an award considering I've only seen 8 movies, was let's see if I can find it. There we go. The Personal History of David Copperfield. This is another movie that came out prior to 2020, but not in America, so that's why I'm fitting it into my 2020 releases for America. I also reviewed this movie. This had a Hugh Laurie in it, as well as Dev Patel, a few other names. I have not read the book David Copperfield, so I really didn't know much of it at all, so I didn't know really what to expect. But not only is it a good story, really good directing, well filmed set in the period that it was set in. Um, and just yeah, the job done, but all the actors and actresses really helped make this story come to life. It was a longer movie, but there's so much going on in it that it didn't really feel like it took a long time. And I believe I mentioned before I was surprised, but the casting was completely race blind. So there was, yeah, dark skinned people that were the parents of light skinned people. Uh, Asian who was, the parent of, Caucasians. It was that I don't like I said I thought that was really neat, interesting, and cool. Uh, and just everybody was basically picked based on their ability to act and fit the part, and they did a good job with all of it. The story itself was really interesting, more so than I would have imagined, being one of those older books that just might not fit into today's society anymore. But would definitely suggest, and I don't know what kind of awards it may be up for, but I would like to see it for something. We'll just have to see either Oscar Times or Golden Globes or possibly international awards. But that would round out my top 8. Unfortunately, I haven't seen more movies, but like I mentioned, by the time we get to Beardy's and Oscar time, I will have a lot more movies under my belt to give our awards to. That being said...
I have a quick question for you.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
I thought you saw Sonic.
Sonic? Is that from... I was...
Yeah.
Okay.
It came out in February, man.
I
think February or early March.
Not you mentioned, I believe I saw that while I was here in Detroit or Michigan, and I didn't move to Michigan until after January, so that would be true. Okay, so I left that off my list, but I ran. Okay, so I went to Wikipedia and just went down the list of 2020 films from America, and I must have skipped it because I imagine it's on there.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm sure because it came out. I want to say February, maybe early March. I want to say it was like second week of February.
It probably was February.
Yeah.
That would I mean, if I wanted to retrofit it in there, it would probably be fourth between Artemis Fowl and Mulan. But
fair.
I'm not going to edit our podcast because I don't feel like putting that much time into it. So I've seen 9 movies.
I was sitting there the whole list thinking where you were going to put Sonic, because I remember you told me you saw it. I was like, what the hell?
You're like, wow, he's putting it number 1. So that rounds out my top 9 then. Copperfield, Soul, Artemis Fowl, Sonic, Mulan, Scoob, Wonder Woman, Guns Akimbo, and Trolls World Tour. Okay. Let's move on to your top 10, which is going to be a lot more legit than my top 9. Go ahead.
Well, we'll see. Well, I think I want to say I saw 15. I'll kind of just go off on why the ones that aren't on there. We'll start. It's easy. First off, Wonder Woman was pure garbage on my first viewing. It is my least favorite movie of the year. I was going to say I need to watch it again. I'm gonna give it a second chance. Maybe I was in a bad mood. I don't know. I hated Wonder Woman. Bad Boys was good. Last 20 minutes, crapped out. And the other 3 I watched, which I want to say were Sonic, First Cow, and sometimes, rarely, always. I think the HBO movie I watched. I think it was sometimes, rarely, never, always. I believe was the name of it. It's about about a girl who gets an abortion. I did not finish those, so those are not on the list because I think I got half of them. So, here are the 10 that I saw all of. And we'll start off at number 10. It's Big Time Adolescence. It's a little lesser known Hulu movie with Pete Davidson. Didn't get the attention that The King of Staten Island has gotten because it was Judd Apatow and there was a bigger cast around it. This one stars Pete Davidson and a young kid whose name I can't remember, and John Cryer, who plays the kid's dad. It's a good, even if it's very predictable, comedy about adolescence and friendships and a kid getting in with a bad crowd and people he knows he shouldn't be hanging around, but does it because it feels good and it's fun. It's a classic kind of story like that. It's well acted. Davidson is proving to be pretty good despite having a rep for not being good on sketches at SNL, which he's kind of fixed a little bit over the last few years. He's gotten better. He's good at playing himself. He's playing himself basically in this and the King of Staten Island. It's the kind of character you'd expect from him. That's from the SNL skits. With him, it's you pretty much get what you. He's very much like Seth Rogen in that he plays the rest of himself in every movie, but it's fun and it's good. At least if you like that type of role. So again, at number 9, we got The Way Back, starring Ben Affleck. It's a high school basketball drama. It's Ben Affleck plays a construction worker who used to be the star player of his high school, was the best player in the history of the high school. That team is for a church, or for a, I guess what you call a Catholic school. And they recruit him to be their new coach after the last couple haven't worked out, and they're one of the worst teams in the district. Trying to revive their team. He's an alcoholic who just got over his son dying a couple years ago and dealing with a divorce. So there's a lot going on there. Affleck is very good in this. Uh, he would be in my actor category right now with like probably about 3 or 4 other guys. Uh, we'll see if he gets an Oscar work for it. I could see it. It's kind of a performance that they would go for. Maybe that last spot. Yeah, very good sports dramedy. Affleck, being a recovering alcoholic himself, brings some good weight to that character. Strong performance for him for me. Probably the best he's been in a few years. I'm a big fan of Affleck as an actor. I know he gets shit on a lot. He's been in some shitty movies. I'm not gonna say he hasn't. He's been shitty in some movies. I'm not gonna say he hasn't. Overall, I think Affleck's a damn good actor. He's really good here. I can't think of who else is in it. It's a lot of kids, unknown character actors. I can't think of any other star power. Basically, just Affleck being a kind of a dick through most of the movie, and then the kids kind of getting him over what he needed to get over. That's basically the whole point of the movie. It's good sports movie.
I
Go on
remember.
to number 8. I don't think you saw that one. You have anything to say, Matt?
I was gonna say I remember when it was coming out, and it looked kind of like a generic basketball movie, but the commercials made it look like it was shot well, and Ben Affleck looked like he did a good job. That was
Yeah,
I haven't seen it, but that was my impressions of it.
that's pretty much just it's well shot, well acted. It's one of many movies I saw on HBO Max this year because HBO Max is a godsend. I love that Warner's thing. I know studios are pissed off at actors. I don't care. It's the way they gotta go. At the end of the day, they gotta keep their fans going, coming to their movies, seeing them one way or another, get their movies out one way or another. And the way things are right now, this is the only safe way to do it. So I think it's great. And my number 7 is one that I actually braved a theater to see, Nomad Land. It was
Hold on. You skipped number 8.
oh, I did. Sorry, you're right. I'm all thrown off. Number 8, King of Staten Island. Sorry about that. Thank you, Matt. Number 8, King of Staten Island. Judd Apatow directed, co-written with Pete Davidson, Marissa Tomei, Judd Apatow's daughter Maud Apatow, Steve Buscemi. I think her name's Carabelle, something Bell. I can't remember the love interest name, but she's really good in this. Nice little standout for her. It's a love story, but mostly it's more of a tribute to Pete Davidson's dad and an explanation of his depression bouts over the last few years. It's been well documented with his relationship with Ariana Grande and him being hospitalized for drugs and depression. Kind of explains why he is the way he is, and with a fictional character and a fictional dad, because his dad died at 9/11. Uh, in the Twin Towers, trying to rescue people. This character in this movie dies at a hotel fire, so it's a different setup, but basically, it's Pete playing Pete, and it's I enjoyed it. I had some issues. It's a little longer than I would have liked. Type movies are like that. It didn't gel like some of his other movies have. He's had problems the last few where he maybe go a little less long on some of this stuff because it's always 2.5 hours and he doesn't always have to go 2.5 hours. But I enjoyed it. I thought Davidson was good enough for playing himself. I don't think he was an Oscar contender. Like I think Bill Burr might be in his supporting role. Bill Burr kind of stole the movie. Uh, Bill Burr had a hell of a year. Glad to see him stepping out of his only being allowed to play the angry brother and the stupid crime guy. I'm glad like the main guy Breaking Bad. I'm good to see Bill Burr having a year. Uh, yeah. But you did not see this one? I know you've heard about it. I think
This was another
we've
movie
talked
I was
about it, but I
going to watch.
reviewed it.
Yeah, this was a movie I was
Yeah.
going to watch. Never got to it, but I still plan on watching it because it looked interesting.
Yeah. All right. Number 7, No Man Land. This is one I did Brave Theaters for. I actually have seen 3. I forgot I went and saw this last week in theaters. I guess I did not like this as much as other reviewers have. This is the favorite to win Best Picture. I think there's better movies than this. That being said, I did enjoy it. Frances McDormand is great. I don't know if she's my actress. We'll get to that later in one of my other movies that I've seen on this list. Um, Great performance of Frances McDormand. Good story, well shot, great cinematography. Um, Sometimes it's a little longer than it needs, definitely a little longer than it needs to be. Sometimes it's drawn out, and sometimes it feels like it's going dark for the sake of dark, and it's trying to just claw at you and make you feel bad and like, oh, how terrible this world is right now. It's a little too much of that, and I think that's what's going to put it over the top, and make it win a Best Picture. But that's what took me out of it at some points, and why it's not higher on my list. Maybe I watched it again, it might go a little higher. I said this is one of a few I just watched, but like I said, outside of the Frances McDormand performance and a good overall story, I think it sometimes it's just a little much at times, and it would be higher on my list. Um, I know I've heard about this Best Picture candidate, but you probably have not seen it yet.
I've probably heard about this movie at some point. I know nothing about it, so yeah, if
Well,
it's up,
it's the movie to beat right now as far as buzz goes. As of right now, if they everyone's saying that's the one to beat,
I'll probably end up
and
watching it then.
I can see it, but I hope it's not. And then we'll go to number 6. Uh, my number 6 is Promising Young Woman. This is a movie I was excited for all year. I saw the trailer for it at Bad Boys in January. It's supposed to come out in April. Got pushed back till Christmas because of COVID. Um, Probably could have used a little more polishing in the editing room. Other than that, I thought it was good. There's some scenes. That movie. I think that movie was an hour and 45 minute long, maybe hour 50, and that's too short to have like 2 or 3 scenes. I think should just be cut. Um, so there's something went wrong there. Other than that, I think it's a great story. Carey Mulligan, it would be my best actress right now. I think she's fantastic in this. Great actress. Bo Burnham is really good. Um, a lot of good, solid character actors making like cameo appearances, like Christopher Mintz-Plasse from Superbad and Adam Brody from the OC. Um, uh, Max Greenfield from The New Girl is another one. Playing douchey, rapey type guys. And the thing I like about this movie is that it has a serious story to it, a serious message, and it also manages to be funny too. The seriousness of what's going on doesn't override the fact that it's a comedy. It finds even ground, which is not easy in today's movie making landscape. Some issues are so hot these days, so contested, it's hard to pull them off in a movie and make people laugh at them. And this one does not have that problem. I think it's doing really poorly at the box office. If I read the reports, but you can blame that on COVID. This is a movie that I think would be doing solid business at the Oscar rush, which is right about now. You have people in the malls going to see it. uh, and maybe being weirded out by it, but it'd still be getting their money. So I think the box office woes are more COVID than anything else, not Me Too related. I think this is would be a hot topic movie right now if it was given the release it was
I,
supposed to get.
like
But
you said, I had seen a lot about this before it was delayed, and now it's been so long, I don't remember much about what I'd seen about it. But like you said, if it's up there for awards, is one I would plan on seeing for sure.
this is one. It's one of the ones I've seen in a few top tens that I've read so far of predictions for Oscars. It's one of I would say about 12 that are in the conversation. Palm Springs is one of them, which I can't believe, but that's I read that in like one or two, and it was towards the bottom. So I don't think it's like legit. But Palm Springs is in someone's conversation for the Oscars. uh, and let's see. Number five. Uh, uh, number five is Soul. Disney Pixar. Matt had it in the list earlier. A really good, one of the better movies I've had in the last few years. I didn't care for Coco, and there's a couple others I didn't really like. I don't know why. So this is kind of a return to form for Pixar. I really like the story. I like that it's not only adult oriented but black themed. I can't believe this is the first black Pixar movie. It's legit the first black led Pixar movie to date, which blows my mind. When I read that, I couldn't believe it. But I don't get the controversy for Tina Fey being cast. There was apparently some controversy they didn't cast a black woman for that role. I don't know what that was about, but I thought Tina Fey and Jamie Foxx both were good as the voice actors. The Pixar, the way they get the voice performances out, they really do such a good job that you feel like they're actually involved. It's really Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey. Pixar's so good at that. Um, got it, and a lot of really good jokes that I'm watching, and I'm thinking kids aren't gonna get this. Kids today don't even know who the Knicks are. That's how irrelevant they are. Like that Knicks joke. Like, how the bad that Knicks joke. But, uh,
I laughed out loud at that part.
I did too.
And
That's probably the best joke in the movie.
you're piling on it right now is pretty funny.
Yes. But overall fun film. Not I don't rank it the top. It's not like my best movie of the year. Maybe because I thought it was a little short. I didn't get into it as much as I maybe say a Toy Story or a Incredibles. But I definitely enjoyed most of the movie. Uh, I I hope they do more like it. Uh, this one seems to be a hit on streaming sites, so we've got a lot of streams, so that's good news for it. That's as good as a box office these days. Um, Number four, I've got The Five Bloods, directed by Spike Lee. It's a Vietnam drama. It's one of the few movies I actually got to on Netflix this year. It's about four Vietnam veterans who go back to Vietnam to not only reclaim their best friend's remains, but to find a treasure they believe is out there. Delroy Lindo gave the performance of the year that I've seen this year. That's He's gonna be in that best actor race. It sounds like he's gonna win it. Best work of his career. Uh, Cast of good character actors whose names I couldn't tell you right off the bat, and him. Uh, Very well. And Chadwick Boseman in a very small role. I almost forgot about Chadwick Boseman. Very small role. He plays the friend that they're going to marry. He's only in flashbacks. I believe it was the last role that he actually did. I think he did Mahoney Bottom before this, if I read correctly, but I could be wrong. I think he shot them both around the same time. Uh, I think technically his last performance was in the five. Uh, and Yeah, great. Black Lives Matter uh era story. Racism not only between whites and blacks in America, but Americans and the Vietnamese and the soldiers coming back there. Um, very well played, told story. It has aspects of a war movie, aspects of a vacation buddy movie, aspects of a thriller. Very unique story by Spike Lee. Not really like anything he's done before. Definitely different. Yeah, I would say it's probably his best film since at least Inside Man, and might be his best film since 25th Hour. I don't like much of his work, but when he gets a good one. He hits a good.
I
So
I haven't seen this, but uh, it was yeah, it came out before I knew what was really going on with it. It's interesting, especially. I guess I mean, as you were describing it there, it seemed like it leans more towards a Spike Lee movie than I thought. But I normally don't think Vietnam era war movie when I think Spike Lee, so that at least
yeah.
makes it interesting. Makes me curious to want to see it.
Okay. Go on to number three, I guess. Trial of the Chicago Seven. Aaron Sorkin's much anticipated follow up to Molly's Game, which was a somewhat of a success, but not like a big hit. Probably expected more Oscars from somebody like David Sorkin, even though it was his first time directing. He follows it up with a much better film here, outside of maybe an ending that is a little dull. The movie overall very entertaining. One of the more watchable movies of this year. I've gone back and watched it. Sacha Baron Cohen, probably my supporting actor. Great performance from Baron Cohen, maybe his best to date. His straight acting, very good in this. As Gabby Hoffman, a lot of real life characters in this. Fred Hampton, Bobby Seale, who are two Black Panther leaders. Uh, what's I'm trying to think of Eddie Redmayne's character's name in this movie. Tom Hayden. He was a cabinet member, and I think he was a congressman, and he was married to Jane Fonda. A lot of famous people. Forget the name. Mark Strong's character, also a big name, but I can't think of it. Anyway, famous activists. Um, very interesting story. I didn't know much about it until I had looked up what it was going on with the movie, and I remember hearing a little bit about this in law classes in college. It's one of the most famous cases in the history of the judiciary system because of how blatant it was against the defendants and obvious from the start that the judge and everybody involved was pretty much stacked against them. Uh, Very good movie, great cast: Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Eddie Redmayne, Sacha Baron Cohen, Mark Strong, who's hot off Succession. Uh, you got Michael Keaton, Frank Langella, uh, Mark Rylance, just stacked to the gill cast. By far the best cast of the year, I would say. Like I said, Sorkin, like the end is kind of Sorkinized. It's Sorkin bullshit, but it's Sorkin. It's vintage Sorkin. If you're mad about it, that's just those kind of elements have been involved in his movies from the beginning. A lot of it's a very West Wing type ending. Anybody who watches the West Wing knows what I'm talking about. With a fan of the West Wing, it's just sort of dull sometimes, but at the end of the day, Aaron Sorkin usually delivers. And it's a good film outside of a few Sorkin moments. Basically, it's the best way I could describe it. I hope Cohen gets an Oscar nomination. I would like to see him win, but I don't think he's their most favorite guy. He might win more. He might be more contention for Borat at this point than he is for that. Which I didn't actually get to finish Borat.
uh, this was a movie that I also wanted to see and never got to it. But yeah, ever since I saw a preview for it, that immediately clicked with me as something I wanted to see.
It's on Netflix right now. Number two, we got Tenet, Christopher Nolan's palindrome, James Bond on acid, action, drama, whatever the fuck that nobody got off their ass in America to see. Uh, I loved it. I think the one or two people that were in the theater with me loved it too. Uh, I I love how unpredictable it is. I love that it's every time you watch it, you're trying to reconnect and see what you didn't pick up from last time. It very much is that kind of movie. It's an Easter egg type of movie. You can keep going back to it, try to find things you missed. There's probably just a shitload. It's such a mind fuck, but that's Nolan for you to a T. It's his most confusing movie probably since Inception. John David Washington is fantastic in it. Robert Pattinson is really good in uh, can't think of his name, but he's pretty damn good as the villain. Kenneth Branagh is damn good as the Russian villain. It's a futuristic, time bending mind fuck that you should don't even try to get too many details on. Just try to absorb. It's the best way I could describe it. Don't read too much into it. Don't go and watch the Tenet explained videos, because even those don't fully understand exactly everything that's going on. I've watched some of them after I saw it. I would just go in blank and try to absorb it because it's really a lot of fun.
Yeah, I still haven't seen this. Otherwise, it would have been on my list. But and I don't know why exactly. It's a movie I want to see. I'm definitely going to see at some point. Just haven't got around to it.
Yeah. And then at number one, I've got Palm Springs. Andy Samberg comedy about a guy who's stuck in the same day over and over again and accidentally drags a woman in with him and they end up falling in love. It's Groundhog Day meets 51st Dates. It's a whole lot of fun. First time director, first time screenwriter, Kirsten Milotti, Andy Samberg, J.K. Simmons, all just a lot of fun here. They all play it up for laughs and they all bring warmth and a little bit of depth to characters that may have been caricatures in lesser hands. Melody is a little bit lesser known than Samberg and J.K. Simmons, but she's done some stuff. I don't know her very well. I've seen in a few things like nothing characters. I recognize her from at least one movie off the top of my head, but I can't. One movie, but I can't tell you off the top of my head what it was. Um, Before I saw this, but Samberg is really really good here. I love every scene he's pretty much in. It's He plays it up for maximum laughs while still finding something in this Miles character to make people like him instead of just being a goofy, lazy guy who just sits around the same day over and over again and doesn't do jack shit. Like it's just a shit disturber. You find something about him that stands out and makes you like him. I just thought it was my favorite movie of the year because it was just the most fun and the most creative and the most ambitious. Um, like I said, first time screenwriter. I could see it getting an Oscar nod for screenplay. It ain't gonna get a picture nomination, even though I've seen some buzz for it. But I love that movie, and I consider it a classic.
Yeah, also a movie I haven't seen, but just seeing Andy Samberg in it is something I would be interested in, possibly, especially if it's going to be up for awards, of course. And
I don't know if it will be or not. It's a movie that they're pushing for, but I don't see it getting Oscars. We'll see.
Well, as far as top 10 goes, that is our list for the year. And again, that's going to be different than our Oscar predictions and everything, which we'll do more around when the Oscars are happening. And by then I might be able to update my top movies of 2020, having watched more movies at that point. But until then, that's going to be it for this show. No reviews since we're doing the top 10s, which was like a bunch of different reviews. We will try to get back at it as soon as possible, but things have been weird, of course. And yeah, so just stay tuned to my Twitter at thatmad85 and our YouTube page. And have a good evening. Say goodbye, Pat.
Goodbye.